Hey, good morning. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. How are you today? How are you? Hope things are going well for you. 9 o'clock in the morning, just after 9:02 on the Pacific Coast, the West Coast. We're here. We're slowly but surely recovering, I guess, hey? Slowly but surely recovering from this COVID-19. Keep your mask on, make sure that you're following all of the protocols and just be careful as you move about. Don't move too fast as they open up slowly but surely the different tiers, the different protocols that are in place to keep us safe. Well, you know what? This morning we were really looking forward to the conversation. I know a lot of you all were looking forward to it. We know that we were going to have a conversation about African royalty, and particularly the passing of the Zulu crown, the Zulu kingdom in Southern Africa. But my guest bailed out on me this morning and at the last minute. And I've been trying to, reach over to Southern Africa to get some guests, and just too last minute, I suppose, to get everything in order. Really sad about that. We had Dumisani Goba was supposed to come on with me, a guy who I've done quite a few great cultural exchanges with him. He's a business person. He's the producer of the South African Traditional Music Awards, which is kind of like the Grammys of the Grammys of indigenous music in Southern Africa. He's headquartered in the Kingdom of the Zulus, and I've learned so many things about the Zulu kingdom rolling with Brother Goba, and even met King Goodwill one time in a store, believe it or not, with Brother Goba. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to be with us this morning, and I'm just a little disappointed, but all good. We're gonna circle back around. The reason the show was important this morning is because here in America we're bombarded with images and news and information from England talking about the British, royals. That's news. I know when Meghan and Harry got married, y'all was running around with your little tea hats and everything, just, feeling like we had arrived, if you will, relating your heritage with the British crown. But did you know that there are many, many kingdoms in Africa? Did you know that there are many, royal stories, royal families in Africa? And I just thought it would be a good conversation for us just to share. King Goodwill Zwelithini passed away in March, and it was big news. He had ruled the Kingdom of the Zulus for more than 50 years, and it was tremendous news when you turn on the news emanating out of Southern Africa. It was the news, live streams, breaking news, all of that King Goodwill had passed away. His wife, Queen Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu, I'm sorry if I'm butchering those names, trying my best here, took over as the interim leader of the Zulu kingdom. And within a month, she passed away, and that was very sad. People were saying, because of, heartbreak, there was even some information out there or rumors out there that, there was situations and circumstances that caused her to be poisoned. It was just a lot in the news, and it's a big deal. After the Queen's passing, it was the tradition to read her will, and her will named her son King Zulu, He is now the king of the Zulus. And what's interesting about that, we were going to talk about this, when you go down to South Africa and you begin to examine, the Zulu kingdom, there was a king in the 1800s, Cetshwayo, who is exceedingly famous in Southern African history. We always hear about Shaka Zulu. Well, Cetshwayo was, just as, if not even more fierce in defending the homeland against the British colonists coming in. And then when you put up, that's in the early 1800s, right? And when you put his portrait up next to the picture of the current brand new king, you can see the genes. You can just see it. He looks just like him. It's fascinating stuff. And so we wanted to have this conversation, and unfortunately our guest could not come, says he got sick. And so he, wouldn't come. And I was trying to get some professors. I reached out to my journalist friends out there to get some really great perspectives on the Zulu kingdom and what's happening there. Because you know what, like I said, we don't know. Why didn't we know about Queen Mantfombi? Why didn't we know about King Goodwill? And it'd be interesting just to see that perspective. Zulu kingdom is 11 million people. That's a huge number of people. That's a ginormous kingdom. And its relationship to the kingdom of Swaziland, or now called Eswatini. Queen Mantfombi is a sister of King Mswati, who is the king of Eswatini, tiny little country right there next to South Africa, surrounded by South Africa, actually. The Lesotho kingdom, they are also related to the Zulus. There's all these connections that transcend the borders that have been created by the colonizers that we all know. We know these countries. We can recognize their borders, on the map. But if we look past that history and look into the indigenous people's histories, you would see the borders are quite different. Kingdom of the Zulus, huge kingdom, very influential, very historical. And we were looking forward to that conversation. I just think it's interesting for us as, Black people in America to make those connections, build a bridge of music, arts, and culture between ourselves and Mother Africa. And we learn some stuff, it's our consciousness, it's our history. We are linked, just with Mother Africa. And it would be interesting for us to hear, see, and understand the history that our brothers and sisters in Africa are going through it. Well, hopefully I'll be able to pull together a show. I got to be honest, I'm a little disappointed, but it's okay. We're going to make it. We're going to make it all happen. I know a lot of you were writing me and inboxing me saying how, interesting this perspective you wanted to hear, you wanted to learn about culture, from an African perspective, because, the people were saying, Brother Craig, you're right. We always hear about the royals and the British, but we don't hear about our royal families and royal situations in Africa. And so hopefully I can bring that to you on another date and time. But I wanted to come before y'all and just tell you, this is what it is. Well, that's okay, because keep checking us out. Coffee Conversations gives you an opportunity to catch up. It's a lot. We've been having a lot of great shows back to back to back. Not quite had this happen before, but it's okay. We're gonna just share with you today what happened. I think I'm gonna play a little bit of a news report that I found online for you, just to kind of give you a background. This one here is in March, when King Goodwill passed away. And let's just tune in. Let me just kind of share this screen and you all can check it out. Hold on, please. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes things don't work out for you, right? It's okay though. You can make it. Don't get too discouraged. It's all good. We're gonna make it happen. It's a time of information sharing, and we're doing this thing. We're just trying to make it all happen. Here's a news report from South Africa as Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini is laid to rest. Check this out.
Farewell to the only king most of them have ever known. These men are called the Amabuto. They've come to the royal palace in Nongoma in northern KwaZulu-Natal to pay tribute to King Goodwill Zwelithini. From across South Africa, tribal chiefs, subjects and well-wishers gathered after the king's private burial ceremony where only close male family members attended.
It's important for me to be here as our father, the king, has left us, so we're here to mourn him.
Some of my fellow warriors were hurt they couldn't be here, but because of the current coronavirus, not all of them could be.
COVID-19 restrictions mean many have stayed away. An unusual time for mourners and a royal family revered throughout the KwaZulu-Natal province. King Goodwill Zwelithini's memorial service has begun within the palace grounds. Outside, Zulu warriors or Amabutu have gathered. They say they're here to praise the king. They're fiercely loyal. But at the gate to the palace, police keep them back. Instead, they perform rituals outside. Inside the palace, dignitaries and family pay tribute to Zwelithini.
The passing of His Majesty means that we have lost a revered leader who had the distinction of leading the Zulu people for half a century. The significance of his long reign and his legacy is not lost on us.
While his role was largely ceremonial with at least 11 million subjects, Zwelithini had significant political influence, which couldn't be ignored by both the apartheid and democratic governments after 1994.
God has given me time to build this nation. From the first year I sat on the throne.
While some say the king was a peacemaker, others argue his influence led to further bloodshed during volatile times. Zwelithini was known as a traditionalist, often promoting the Zulu culture. But he was criticized too for comments he made in 2015, saying that foreigners should return to their homes. He also publicly condemned homosexual relationships. The king was also one of the largest landlords in the world. Through a special trust, he controlled nearly a third of the land in KwaZulu-Natal province. People who live here don't own the land controlled by the trust. Last year, activist groups took the trust to court. They want more rights for tenants. But many here remain loyal to tradition and the monarchy, and despite the criticism, people here say they've lost a king. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Nongoma, KwaZulu-Natal.
Welcome to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so there you have it. Information right there, the news showing the death of King Goodwill Zwelithini. It's interesting, right, that you can hear, the amount of influence that this man had in the area. The Zulus are everywhere when you go to Southern Africa. Here's some information on the death of the Queen. So after King Goodwill passed, Queen Mantfombi took over as the regent or the interim leader of the Zulus while they went through whatever their traditional processes are to get the queen, to get the king, the next king, right? And she passed away within a month. It was very shocking, right? It's interesting. Okay, let me just kind of talk about this. Is one of the things we were going to chat about today is, okay, so King Goodwill had 6 wives, right? Queen Mantfombi is the 3rd wife. She was married, she's the sister of King Mswati, who is the king of Swaziland, now known as Eswatini. And because she was of pure royal blood, it was why she was able to, go ahead and ascend to be the regent or the interim leader of the Zulu nation, the queen of the Zulus. And then upon her passing, it would be her will that was read and named the next king, which she named her eldest son. And it is all because they were of purer royal blood than the other wives, So that's fascinating stuff what's happening out there. Here's a little news report with on King Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, I heard. I'm hearing no sound, so let me just kind of get that back together here. Excuse me, my apologies. We're gonna get that right on together. It's all good. Let's see here. My bad. Let's try this.
More and more mourners making their way into the palace. Of course, behind me, I'm not sure if you can see, the police minister, Minister Bheki, has arrived, accompanied also by the Minister of Health, Dr. Zwelithini. They are just few of the guests that are expected to be coming here. Among them, of course, is the former president of the Republic, Mr. Jacob Zuma, as well as the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Balega Mbete. But with me, of course, to anchor the show, I've got my colleague, Ayanda Mhlongo. Ayanda, just in terms of the build-up to us being here today, how would you define the preparations for this particular memorial service?
Yeah, well, certainly, Sipion. I think let's just remind our viewers, of course, that last night, or in the early hours of this morning, the Queen Regent, Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu, was, of course, interred. That was a private ceremony with members of the royal family, and she has been laid to rest here inside Kangela Nkengane Royal Palace. In fact, we were speaking to some of the members of the royal family earlier this morning, in terms of just them updating us on what happened during that service, and them telling us that all went well, and of course their family was now awaiting the memorial service and the final plans for the memorial service. Of course, as Sipiwe has said, the guests from this morning have already started to trickle in. He's mentioned the ministers. I also see the chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders here in the province of KwaZulu Natal, Nkosi Patisiwe Qiliza. Of course, now standing next to us is the mayor of the Zululand District Municipality, Babutula Sizwe Buthelezi. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for your time. One, I can understand it's been really difficult for yourself. You know, this is the district in which His Majesty the late King Goodwill Zwelithini in all his palaces are under your municipality, Mr. Buthelezi, and you once again confronted with another difficult situation barely a month after the passing of the king. One of the things, due to numbers, we are still under COVID-19 regulations, and in terms of the numbers of people, we know that you've had to restrict them to only 250 that have been allowed. But I know this is one memorial service that thousands of people across the district would have wanted to also be part of. Just speak to us, Mayor, in terms of what has been arranged for the ordinary members of the public.
Well, as the people of Zululand, we are here. Our hearts are heavy because less than a month ago we buried our king, and here we are burying Her Majesty the Queen with the memorial service today. But we have ensured that under the leadership of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the Zulu nation remains together. And as the people of Zululand, those who are not here are watching in the big screens so that they take part in today's service and bid their final farewell to really an amazing queen who brought together two nations, the nation of the Kingdom of Eswatini and the Zulu nation, and who empowered rural women to do crafts and to rely on their own strength, and revived cultural customs such as Umkhosi Wesivivane, which nurtured young women to play their role in society. Therefore, as the people of Zululand, there is a gaping hole that has been left, but we know that God will remember us and we will rise again from the ashes.
Just speaking about that, I know, Mr. Mayor, when we spoke to you in the preparations for the King's planting a month back, you're heavy heart, considering the support that the royal family gives to the municipality, the support that the royal family in terms of the projects and working with the community in terms of growth and development in this district. And as you're mentioning there, the late Regent Queen Mantfombi as well, particularly working with young girls. She's very invested in the youth, invested in young girls, but also worked with women in this community to develop them. I know she started sewing schools. She's also started projects, garden projects, so that they were able to sustain themselves. So certainly I think in terms of the role that she played, this has been a big blow for this district.
It's a huge blow because the Queen passed away as regent, which really symbolized and brought forward the role of women in leading in Zulu society. It's a big blow because the rural women who under the years had been under her mentorship will now have to start from scratch. But the role that the royal family has provided as a source of social cohesion to society, one cannot underestimate that role, and we hope to continue to work together with the princes and the princesses who were brought under the Queen.
Thank you so much. So the mayor of the Zululand District Municipality, Thulasizwe Buthelezi, of course, just explaining what the loss of the Queen Regent Mantfombi has meant for this community, for the people of the Zululand District. And of course, we are continuing to and speak to some of the guests that have that are here to be part of today's memorial service, as the people of Natal, the people of South Africa bid farewell to the late Queen Regent. We now have the Minister of Health, Dr. Zwelithini Mkhize. Minister, thank you very much for agreeing to chat with us this morning. Certainly, it's been a difficult time for the Zulu nation, a double blow, in fact, a triple blow, in the sense that the king first lost his son, the Prince Letutula, His Majesty then bowing, and now the Queen Regent Mantfombi.
Certainly, it has been a devastating time for the royal house. This is the fourth loss in the royal family. If we could recall that His Majesty lost two sons, actually. The two sons, it was also quite sad because they were lost at their prime, and we still expected a lot from them. We loved them, and in particular, we believe that they have a very strong role to play in the future of our country. Now, the loss of His Majesty was, of course, the most traumatic. None of us living at this time went through the kind of anguish before that we have experienced with the loss of His Majesty, who was highly loved and very respected, and literally was part of our day-to-day lives in a way that really made everyone feel very proud and strong. As part of the colorful people of South Africa. Of course, at this point, the loss of the regent queen has also come as a, before the wounds were healed. And therefore, we do understand that the royal family is in deep pain and anguish, and we want to convey our condolences to the royal family for the very sad loss, both the royal family in KwaZulu-Natal and the people of South Africa, as well as people of Eswatini, where she hails from. And she had helped to maintain a very strong bond and relationship between our peoples, and therefore her departure really has been a source of sadness.
I'm bringing my colleague Simpiwe Makhanya into the conversation. Of course, Dr. Mkiza Simpiwe has been here.
Yeah, so that's what's going on over there. That was happening. I think that was last week, and then since they have gone ahead and chosen the next king, we're going to cover that in a minute. But I want to get to this question. One question was, what does it mean to have royal blood? What I mean by that is, your bloodline is royal, so your daddy's daddy, your mom's mom, you're all the way back, your greats, your bloodline has always been, royalty, king, queen, princesses, that whole thing. And so, understand that in these countries, they go back, thousands of years. I think the Zulu nation is probably 400 to 500, 600 years old. You can go back, through the bloodline of the kings and queens of Zulu. Now, you've heard them mention KwaZulu-Natal. That's a province or state within the Republic of South Africa. But and that's under apartheid, they put all the Zulus in that part of the country. So KwaZulu-Natal is the province where the Zulus, live. And as that country, South Africa, was formed under apartheid rule, this is where they, that's just where they were put, and that's where they live. As soon as you step off the airport in Durban, it says, "Welcome to the Zulu Kingdom." It's very, very powerful. But the Zulus stretch over into Swaziland, or Eswatini, as you heard. The queen was the sister of the current king there, which is the last absolute monarchy on the entire continent of Africa, is Eswatini. You could find strong Zulu populations in Mozambique, Tanzania. This kingdom stretched far and wide prior to the colonizers coming, and the descendants of that nation, that kingdom, are still living in those regions by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands. The Zulu kingdom still lives, still thrives, and we're talking about the Zulu nation and them mourning their loss of their king in March, and then in April, the queen, one of the queens. Now, this story is not without, controversy and intrigue, as, like I said, we're always bombarded with news of what's happening with the royal families in England. But, we got our royal families too, all over Africa. The Zulu nation being such a large and significant nation, the Zulu king, we think of Shaka Zulu and all that, it's just a significant piece of news, but it did not break without its own set of controversies. Number one, there is a rumor that the queen was poisoned, which has been refuted. Now, when her will was read, and the now king, Misizulu Zulu, is now the new king, people in the royal family are disputing that. And we were going to hopefully be able to talk about that a little bit. But while this is happening, let me just show you the news reports of what happened after that beautiful ceremony we were just viewing. Then they read the will, and here's what happened. Check this out. Bear with me here as I get all the proper buttons. Check this out. So understand, this is being live streamed all across the country here. You know, this is them getting ready to read the will of the king. SABC is a major network, the major network, the government, you know, news agency. So this is all over the country. So apparently the folks not liking the announcement.
This is a public meeting. It's not a public meeting.
So Prince Zulu is announced as the successor to be the king of the Zulus. The gentleman there wearing the face mask making the announcement is Prince Buthelezi. You remember the Buthelezis as, you know, kind of their name is rich and strong in the fight against apartheid. But he is the prime minister of the kingdom of the Zulus, and he's making the announcement of who shall be the next king according to the will of Queen Mantfombi, who they had buried earlier that day. So you see, that's what goes on there. It was people were.
If you want other people's tax dollars to buy,
people were not feeling King Zulu, but I think they're starting to get it all together now over there in KwaZulu-Natal, Kingdom of the Zulus, South Africa. Somebody was asking me here on the Coffee Conversations with Greg J, what has building a bridge between Africa and African Americans been like for me personally? You know, you learn a lot, and I've learned to, you know, go into these countries and societies and just unhinge my expectations as a Black American and just observe and see, you know, what my brothers and sisters do, say, consume. You know, it's really phenomenal. I think the whole king thing is the monarchy is very interesting to me. I've met a couple of kings thus far in my travels, and I gotta say, I had butterflies in my stomach. It was pretty amazing, you know, to think, okay, wow, this guy's a king, you know, and it's very, very interesting to understand that and then communicate with them and then just try to extend some sort of exchange, cultural exchange. My good friend Zoli Mapipa, he's a broadcaster in South Africa, and he was going to try to come on this morning, but we couldn't make it happen. But he was trying to plug me into some significant, you know, voices to talk about this subject, about the Zulu kingdom. And, you know, I've done a couple of cultural exchanges with him, and it's interesting as radio people how a lot of things are the same, but then a lot are different, right? And he had, as a general manager of radio inside of the South Africa Broadcasting Corporation, the state broadcaster. He had 19 or 15 radio stations under him. I mean, that's a lot of radio stations to have to deal with, all speaking different languages, right? That's a whole nother thing. There's 11 official languages in South Africa, and just making sure that the radio communicates and touches the culture respectfully that is there in Southern Africa. Just learning about all that stuff for me is really, really great. I think that on the flip side, here in America, I think it's important for us as Black people to build this bridge, to extend this bridge to our African brothers and sisters. It's essential because we are the same, and we have all been touched by, white supremacy, systemic racism in various degrees, but we all now need to come together, link up shoulder to shoulder, conduct business, take control of our story, tell our story. Why can't we have a significant piece of the natural resources that's trading across this world? Why can't we hear about, African music? Why can't we hear about African movies and thus and so? It's just all the same. And I think we all need to just kind of get together and link up and create one strong nation all across this world to stand up against injustice, to create culture, to advance culture. This is what I really like and what the mission is of building a bridge of music, arts, and culture. I got one more video I want y'all to see, I think. Let me just kind of get that together. That is just the report of what has happened now that the new king has been named and he's out there. I think he was whisked away to Swaziland or Eswatini. Right after that announcement, there were concerns of his safety, but I think that's all beginning to chill out now. If I'm hearing the news, this is all breaking news now. One of the queens, we mentioned that King Goodwill had 6 wives. And so, of course, one of the wives is contesting in court, the viability of Queen Mantfombi's directives that her eldest son become the next king. And I think that's a really interesting story too. We'll show that news report as soon as I get it back up here. And it's just really something, man, how this stuff is unfolding on the continent. And while we always watch, while we always watch the British royals, just know that we have you know what I'm saying? We have royalty over there in Africa. We can observe and check it out. Just like we observe and check out what's happening over there in in Great Britain. It's just really something. Hold on one second here. We're gonna get to this. Okay, so this is a news report about the first wife and her court application to try to block the, I guess, what would you call it, naming of the new king. Let's check this out here. Let me get my little self together here and share screen so you can check it out and get your own firsthand news right there from South Africa. Uh-oh. All right, y'all, here she is. This is the first wife number 1. She ain't having it.
Queen Dlamini Zulu versus the AmaZulu Royal House. The Pietermaritzburg High Court will have to weigh up the status of a civil union against King Goodwill Zwelithini's 5 subsequent marriages under customary law.
It is a clash between the traditions and the constitution. So and the laws. So one would say, yes, maybe she might have an idea, but what does the law say at this point? If you're married in a civil union, it's going to be a marriage that does not need a second marriage. If you want a second marriage, it must be a customary marriage. So as much as they would say she knew, but the question is, what does the law say? And if she's going through that route and through the constitution, it might be on the side. But I'm not sure what the court papers are saying, but I'm just stating how the law is as it stands.
Queen Sibongile wants half of the estate. She further says that the late Queen Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu was not eligible to become a regent. In the court papers, Queen Sibongile contends that the late king was not legally permitted to enter into any other marriage after their wedding in 1969.
According to the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, if you look at Section 10, it states that if you are married in a civil union, you cannot be married in another marriage, or you cannot be married in a customary marriage. However, if she was married in a customary marriage and she gave consent for the others to be married, then we could say it's a polygamous marriage.
The King's will states that anyone challenging it in court will be disinherited and lose their benefits as a member of the royal family, but the law may be on Queen Sibongile's side.
If the marriage is a civil marriage, then obviously the marriage is in common of property, and she has 50% of the assets. Then the other 50 can be decided in any ways if the will says so. You understand? Which means then whatever is stated in the will, she still has a 50% of the assets because it's an incommunity of property, which means she also have an interest on half of the estate.
In a separate application, two daughters of Queen Sibongile, Princess Ntandoyenkosi Zulu and Princess Tombizosuthu Zulu Duma, are challenging the authenticity of the king's signatures in the will that was read to the royal family. They hired a forensic expert who found that the signatures in the will differ from the two samples the princesses provided. They also say in court papers that there were irregularities in the will where the king named SM Zulu as his successor. They say an alteration in the ID number was not correctly witnessed. The Pietermaritzburg High Court is likely to hear both applications within 2 weeks. This as the AmaZulu nation is still trying to come to terms with the passing of both the AmaZulu king and the regent. Vusi Kumalo, SABC News, Durban.
If you're an accredited investor,
so there you have it.
Something I think you're going to want to listen to.
Sorry about that. Signed myself out of the broadcast. It's interesting. I see Pastor Kelvin Saul's in there. He says, being royal doesn't exempt anyone from family drama. And you are absolutely right there, Pastor. I mean, it's interesting. And, isn't that we have curiosity of the royal families, right? And it's always tied into us looking at, drama inside of their family. If we contrast this, the same, we always hear about the British royals, and isn't that what the folks are fixated on? Their family drama and what that means, and it's the same down there in Southern Africa. But, yes, absolutely good. You respect the royalty, but we need to understand that the colonizers used royal families to advance their strategies of divide and conquer, exploitation, and marginalization. When I visited Swaziland, or Eswatini as it's called, I was a guest of the government there My good friend Z Shabango, if you're listening to this, hey, greetings, my friend. She was working in the King's administration, and she arranged a bunch of meetings for us as we rolled through the Kingdom of Swaziland, as it was called at that time. It's now Eswatini. And we went to the National Museum. And we learned there, to your point, Pastor Sauls, we learned that how complicit the past kings were to the British crown in order to divide and conquer the chiefs, right? The different kings in the various areas, so much so that when the British laid claim to the land of South Africa, the Republic of South Africa, they left Eswatini or Swaziland as not a country, but a protectorate. This was in the 30s and the 40s. And, because they could count on the kingdom to basically snitch on other kingdoms. And so, yes, they absolutely used the royal families to advance their struggles, to divide and conquer, to exploit and marginalize the people. And now this is why you see a lot of abject poverty. You see a lot of, inequities, as a result of systemic racism, as we will. That thing runs deep, man. I was having a conversation yesterday, and we were just analyzing just how deep this message, this power, this exerting their way of thinking reaches down into African culture. It's really, really something. Well, shoot. I think that's about all I have to show for you today. We were looking at it, March, the king of the Zulus passed away. And it was big news. It was breaking news all over South Africa, probably on up into Mozambique, Tanzania, all the places where, the king of the Zulus reign reaches. Within a month, the third wife of the king, he had 6 wives and 36 children. The wife was appointed regent, proper to their customs and traditions, which means she would rule the Zulu kingdom until such a time as the king was actually named and could take the reins and begin his reign, sit on the throne and begin his reign. Then after that, she passed away, like within a month, some say of a broken heart. Others would say, there's others that say, she was poisoned. I don't know about that one, but that's what they said. Okay. So certainly members of the royal family objected to her taking the throne as the regent. When they named her eldest son as the new king, members of the royal family also objected to that. And it's a source of controversy, but it's a source of big news over in South Africa. My friend Tommy Ngubeni, you remember her. She's a #1 broadcaster down there in South Africa. And she was trying to join us to get on here and join us in this analysis of this story, but she wasn't able to do it at the last minute. But she did send me a bunch of resources, some people, the Zulu Heritage Institute, professors and all of that. We were trying to reach the folks to try to get them on to have this discussion. And it's not over. I think I'm going to revisit this very subject, and I'm going to bring the experts on so that we can just kind of learn, let's learn what this means. What does this mean to our brothers and sisters over there in Africa? I think it's a point of curiosity for us here in America, but also adds a very strong plank in the foundation of consciousness from a Pan-African perspective. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Let's be aware that this stuff really is what it is. I know my friends who are Xhosa. That is another nation. I won't call them a tribe, another nation, a very large nation in Southern Africa. Did you know the king of Xhosas comes to Coachella? right? So it's like all this different stuff in modern day time. That's what's happening. And yes, brother, we're saying with equality and equity continuing to be a matter of urgency in South Africa, true democracy, not necessarily royalty, is much needed. And that's a good point there. And I know that they're struggling in that area. It's interesting though that royalty still has a place in the operation of democracy. And, it's just like what we heard the lawyer talking about when the first queen was filing her applications in court. So on one hand, just like here, community property, right? She wants half. But at the same time, traditional laws have to be are respected in the considerations of movement of government and all of that. You heard in one of the reports, there are, government officials who tend to the traditional leaderships and all of that, the chiefs, the kings, all of that stuff is important in the grand scheme of things as democracy evolves in Southern Africa. Someone here is thanking me. Thank you. Yeah, I am. I'm committed there, Pastor Sauls. Thank you, my brother. Somebody's asking about our next trips to Africa and how do you sign up for informationals? You know what? We are actually thinking about starting our informationals for 2022. I think we'll begin our trips. We've been watching the pandemic very, very closely. Planning to announce some things. We want to begin to go back to the Cape Town Jazz Festival. We want to go to Senegal. We've been talking to our friend Mom. She's been here on Coffee Conversations with Greg J. We've been trying to coordinate a trip for artists to go to Senegal and exchange with artists in the Republic of Senegal. So we're working hard on that. We want to go to Kenya, and we've got some friends and folks over there. We're trying to get that happening. And we want to go to Ghana, So yes, indeed, our next travel to Africa, we're looking at 2022, and we probably should begin to start informationals real soon so folks can begin to get their money together, get information on the COVID-19 protocols. It's time to get back to travel. I'm very much ready for that. And, great question. How do we sign up for informationals? Just keep listening and watching Coffee Conversations with Greg J. We're going to go over there to Africa and get it in like we have been for the last decade now. We've been going over there quite regularly and having fun and creating all of these, building this bridge of music, arts, and culture. All right, y'all, that's all I got. Wow, we turned that into a jewel, didn't we? Made some lemonade out of mud. That's how good thing. Thank you so much for watching us. We'll revisit it again. Tune in on Thursday. I got a feeling it's going to be an incredible topic. I won't mention it right this exact moment, but I will a little later on today. Just keep going on with Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is available on demand on our Facebook page. Also over there at Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. We also create our audio version. We publish just a little later on today. I know people can't sit in front of the screens and look at my beautiful face all day. And while we go through this topics, you're on the move too. That's okay. You can take us with you. We are available wherever you get your favorite podcasts: Apple, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Deezer, Spotify, you name it, just type it in, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. It's out there. We also have a podcast on African music, Afropop Radio, theafropopradio.com. And that's African music, contemporary African music. I think you'll like that one too. So there it is, y'all. Have a great day. And just remember, love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.